Hello? We're going to turn these off. Okay. Okay, everybody find a seat. We got a lot to do. We got a long way to go and a short time to get there. You know the immediate past senior warden runs the meeting, right? Yeah. Come on in, everybody. We're going to get going in about 2 minutes because we got a lot going on. So come on in. Everybody come on in. This is great to see everybody. Come on in. Okay. Remember, if what we're asking is if people are speaking, you can have your masks off, which is why mine is, but otherwise, keep your mask on. And if you're drinking, kind of do the dip and sip or whatever. We just want to make sure we keep everyone as safe as we can. We still got folks coming back. Come on in. I would just use this mic instead of that one. That one's just, you can sort of, yeah. Keith, are we ready? We're going to go ahead and get going, and folks can keep on coming in, and it's great to see everybody online, or I guess it's good for you to see us, because we can't see you, but we know that you are out there. So God dwells in you. Let us pray. Holy and loving God, giver of all good gifts, thank you for the great gift you give us when you give us to each other in your church. We ask you to be with us as a spirit of wisdom, as a spirit of compassion, as a spirit of joy. We ask you to join us as we give thanks for all that has been and look forward to all that will be. Help us to speak clearly and listen deeply. Help us to hear your still small voice in our hearts, in the spaces between words, and on the lips of one another. Let the church say amen. Amen. Okay. Great to see everyone. It is just so wonderful to every week we're together. There are both new people coming in that we haven't met before who may have been with us online for a while. And there are people that I swear I haven't seen for 2 years because this is how we've tried to love each other and be safe. And it's like, it almost is like every week is homecoming. And I love it. And it's just so good to see all of you. And all of you who are participating, and I don't want to just say watching us online, you are full participants in the life of this church. Know that we can feel the connection, and you are here with us, and we are so grateful. I'm going to do something that's really hard for me, which is I'm going to try to speak briefly. And so you'll notice on the agenda that my roles in this are fairly short, and we're going to try to keep it that way. Yes. An applause from my former senior warden who knows this all too well. I want to just take a brief moment and say a couple thank yous. Yeah, come on in and sit down. Now, it used to be that this meeting was a command performance for all the staff. And I thought that was, there's really good things about that, so you could see all the staff and know them and know that they were here. And part of what we've done is the staff work so hard, and some of them have their own churches that they go to on Sunday, believe it or not. And so what we've told the staff is, if you want to come here for the annual meeting, please, we'd love to have you, but don't feel compelled to. And so what I first want to do is we've got the staff right over here. Can you all just sort of stand up? real quick as you're able. And know that they represent a much larger group. And again, this is where I could talk for a long time, and I'm not going to, but just, you all are amazing. And that word, there really isn't a word. I could go to thesaurus.com and read the whole list, and it would not even begin to touch what you mean to me, what you mean to this congregation. And just like, it has been wonderful to welcome Chase to the staff. Chase, it's great having you here. We also have, and she's not here right now, but Samantha Kramer has joined our staff as a part-time human resources assistant who has been fantastic. We have new, and we're going to hear about this new administrative assistants joining the staff. We have Ben Boquist, who's up in Family Hour right now, who is our interim children's minister. I also just want to jump out and sort of two other people really quickly. The first is, as you know, for the last couple of years, we have been in a period of transition with the staff, and this is not just with positions, it's in how we're organized, and we are growing into this much more collaborative model, the circles model. And it has been a heavy lift. My first job was in a very large church, and I was in my late 20s, and so, the church has to change now, and my long-suffering rector just looked at me and said, Mike, big ship, slow turn. And I hear his voice every day. And this transition has been, it's going really well, and it's going slowly. And I want to point out Sally Howard, because Sally has done so much amazing work with the administration circle, with the whole circles model, working with the staff. It's just been, Sally, thank you so much for all that you've done. And then also part of what we're doing is recognizing that we're entering into a new time. People are moving into retirement, may have more time on their hands. I don't know who I might be talking about. And people are stepping into the church in roles in new ways. We used to have a paid receptionist, and that was a staff position, and that was a great thing to have. And that's no longer something we can budget for. Marilyn Kaufman has stepped up and has just done that work. I mean, she comes to staff meetings, and it just is, she does it, it's ministry for her, and just so deeply, deeply grateful for her and the work that she's done. So please, when you see the staff, I want to especially say the building and ground staff, thank them for the work that they have done. And speaking of thank yous, I cannot even imagine what this year would have been like without your senior warden, Monique Thomas, who has been just an incredible leader and a friend. And so, Monique, I'm just going to turn it over to you for the next part of the agenda.
Thank you. Oh, I can? Oh my God, thank you. I can breathe. Oh, this is so much better. Oh gosh, it's Monique. It's me. So I just needed to take a deep breath. Part of my piece today is to talk about telling the story for where we've been over the past year. It feels like 10 years in 1 year. The past 2 years have been really, really challenging. What I will say is that, again, in these difficult times in the wilderness, it really reveals to us who we are. And I feel like that as a congregation, it was so much revealed about what is important here at All Saints. Our table, gathering at the table in community. And our staff, oh my gosh, worked so hard, and your vestry, to keep things going and to create a sense of community so that we could all feel connected together, but it was very challenging. We are still technically in a pandemic, right? And whether it was Zoom meetings, gatherings, dance parties, virtual dance parties, everything that we did everything that we could to try to stay in community and try to find some joy in these really hard times. And so having said that, I do, again, we've already recognized the staff, but if you all knew how hard and the amount of time that goes into the work that everyone does, I want to give a special shout out for our music department, for the choirs, for Jenny and Wei Chung. who did some incredible things with virtual music that I didn't even realize. I'm like, how are they even doing that? And the extra work and time and how taxing it was. But all of our staff, everyone, it was a lot. Your vestry, meeting sometimes twice a month, working on the budget, working on our new direction, working on how we were going to move forward in a pandemic. Your vestry has been working really hard. And so the ones who are retiring off will get a special shout out, but just can we give our entire vestry a hand right now? We initiated some new things this year. One of them is that we started our CCEJ training. This is through the California Convention on Equity and Justice, which was a racial justice training, to give us the language and concepts to really talk about race, dismantling racism, dismantling white supremacy, and dismantling anti-Black racism. We have gone through 6 sessions, and it will be rolled out to the congregation later. But it's been really exciting. It was attended by staff and vestry, and the 2 wardens and Mike, and it's really been an incredibly life-changing experience for everyone. So that was one of the things that we kicked off. In an effort to keep our community going, we had, first we had the community care team, but then that became the Community Care Alliance. And really that was instrumental, because as we were not gathering in person, we recognized that there were people who live alone, might have illness. We wanted to check on them and make sure that they were okay and still felt like they were part of the community and see what those needs were. And so the Community Care Alliance was something that was amazing. And again, in this wilderness, just another way of showing how we as All Saints come together and care for one another. We started doing strategic directions work under the guide of Tony Jackson, who is incredible and amazing. And so we're looking at who we've been as All Saints, who we are now, and what our direction is, how we can better live into our mission and our values, how we can engage with the larger Pasadena and San Gabriel community. Where are the needs in our community where we can sort of fill that gap? Where can we lead when we need to and also be in partnership with others? And so that strategic direction work is really exciting. We will be hosting a series of information talks, so you can come and get more information about it. We want your input. We want you to come. There'll be some that are affinity spaces that are based on identity, but there are general small groups, and so you'll be getting more information about that, because we really, to be the church that belongs to all of us, that represents all of us, we need to hear your voices. And so please, as you get that information, please show up for those. Another shout out that I want to give is, I feel like we're just giving Sally so much love today, but she deserves it. Our Safe Haven program. Can we get, yes. So Sally and Erica Tamblin, who's right up here, yes, led this Safe Haven project in partnership with Union Station Homeless Services. And what's so beautiful about that is Union Station started right here at All Saints. Parishioners got together over 40 years ago and started Union Station, and it's coming full circle with the work that we're doing. As a result of the work that we've been doing with Safe Haven, 12 of our unhoused community members have been transitioned into permanent supportive housing. So good work, and there's always more work to be done, but that program is continuing. So right now I want to transition. This is really hard for me because I am also graduating off of vestry. It's 4 years, so it feels like I should get a bachelor's or something now that I'm done with it. But I want to turn it over and talk about our graduating vestry members who are leaving, and just say a little bit about them and give them their attention. So about a year ago, we as a vestry decided that 2 youth representatives just weren't enough, and that we wanted to have at least 3. And this came from the youth vestry members, who basically there's strength in numbers, and so they felt more safe to speak out if there were more of them there. And then we realized they have so much input. They're leading us. They have so much wisdom. And so we have 2 youth vestry members who are graduating off this year. The first one is Gabriel Dabranski, and I don't think Gabriel's here today, but I'll talk about them. Gabriel is a graduating senior at the California School of Arts, has been at All Saints for 7 years. They're involved in the youth program and are the youth liaison for the LGBTQIA ministry. Gabriel has such an incredible passion for equity and justice in everything that they do, and it was so well seen at our vestry meetings. The next one is here, another youth vestry member, Karis Graham. Woohoo. Karis is another graduating senior. She is involved in the youth program. Karis would ask the deep, important questions at our vestry meetings. And many times, Karis would ask the questions that adults in the room were too afraid to ask. And I would hear Karis ask the question, then everyone would take a deep breath like, oh, I wanted to know that too, but I didn't want to ask. It was amazing, your ability to just analyze and see the situation and ask those questions that moved us forward as a vestry. And so I want to thank you for everything that you contributed and for your voice, and wish you good luck going off to college. Christine Hartman. Christine was chair of Youth and Family Committee and chair of the Congregational Response Team when that started. Christine's commitment to children, youth, and family was so just prevalent in our meetings. Anytime we would have a discussion about the budget or about directions, Christine's first question was, how does that affect our families? How does that affect children? And really made sure that we were centered on that. She is also just committed again to equity and justice. Many times, Christine would be in Washington, D.C., protesting. Whatever cause moved her heart, where someone needed to speak out about it, sometimes she was alone doing this and carrying this work. And so just your commitment to children and youth and to justice and standing out and modeling for us what it means to just be, maybe you're out there on your own, has been so incredible for me personally, but for our vestry and for our church. Thank you. Dave Moreno is a retired senior naval petty officer and also retired from the motion picture and sound community. Dave was serving his second term on the vestry and is currently a member of the Diocesan Council. And Dave was our voice and our link to the diocese in a really strong way. We always, there's a contribution that we make to the diocese, and Dave was always the voice of making sure that we were equitable in those contributions and just keeping us centered on the diocese. Yes. And our next retiring vestry member, Jim White. So Jim served on the Buildings and Grounds Committee, the IT Committee. Jim says that he is a part of the family business of IT, so that's his background. He served as lay Eucharist minister and diocesan lay leader. So again, he and Dave were really involved with connecting us with the diocese. Co-chair of the Commission on Ministry, which oversees people who are in the process of ordination. And the other thing that Dave, I remember Jim, sorry. I remember calling Jim because we had just started the Racial Justice Advisory Board, and I said, we're starting a work group, and I would love for you to be a part of this. And he was like, me? Old white guy, me? Really? Why did you pick me? And I was like, no, because I think that your views on equity, your experience here, your vision, I think that you would be perfect. And he was such an incredible addition to that group and really became a really strong ally and voice for moving them forward. So Jim White. And lastly, Steve Williams, who is here. Yay! So Steve has a diverse background in radio production, music recording, producing, film, television, sound design, and a sound supervisor. One thing, Steve was the junior warden when I came in and sort of passed that baton to me. And your kindness, your leadership, your wisdom was so helpful to me as I transitioned into that role. I don't know why I decided to then become senior warden, but But it was wonderful, and I want to thank you and Mary Ann Ahart, who was senior warden at that time, for that as well. Steve is very much involved in the racial justice ministry and in the small groups ministry as well. And Steve was another voice on vestry. And again, this is what I love about everyone on vestry and what it represents, is that it really isn't a rubber stamp situation. People come in with their own views and opinions. And Steve was another one who would ask those really hard probing questions that would make us stop in our tracks and sometimes change directions. And that's something that you need in this work in vestry. So everyone, please help me thank and recognize and honor our graduating vestry members, class of 22.
And there is one more, and that is Monique Thomas. And yes, please. And what I want to say about you, because being a senior warden is hard in any time, and it's challenging and it's rewarding. So don't think it's like, oh my God, may never, because it might be you someday. But the best leaders lead by listening, lead with a balance of their head and their heart. And that's how you lead. The model of Christ's leadership is vulnerability. And you always bring your whole self to everything that we do. And I'm so deeply grateful for not just the work that you have done, but the presence that you are and will continue to be. So thank you to Monique Thomas. You're actually up next. No, actually, Julianne's up next.
Thank you. Oh, do I need to take my mask off?
Yeah, you can take your mask off.
Okay. It's a whole production. Hold it.
This is like the end of Scooby-Doo. It's like, it's Julianne Hines.
Woo! This is weird to be unmasked in a room full of people, but here we go. So thank you all for being here today. First of all, I want to, as we talk about the incoming class of vestry members, I want to really express my deep appreciation for the members of the nominating committee who were so thoughtful and so committed and diligent in identifying vestry nominees who we all believe are meant for leadership at this time in the history of All Saints Church. So please join me in thanking those who joined me on the nominating committee: Steve Williams, Jim White, Monique Thomas, Dave Marino, Mike Kinman, Sally Howard, Christine Hartman, Karis Graham, Alfredo Ferragrino, Gabriel Dabranski, and Mark Chase. So I am truly honored to introduce you to the following slate of nominees for election to the vestry. And we will start with Bill Gould. Bill teaches at the USC School of Social Work with a focus on macro practice in organizations, systems, and communities, and has previously worked with First 5 LA, Pasadena Alumni Support Center, and multiple positions in the child welfare sector. He has completed a number of professional programs, including African American Board Leadership, Southern California Leadership Network, the Interaction Institute for Social Changes Fundamentals of Facilitation for Racial Justice Work, and Race Forward's Building Racial Equity. Bill and his family have been part of the All Saints family for 10 years and have served in multiple capacities. Bill is a member of the Racial Justice Advisory Board and has contributed to the Racial Justice Ministry through sharing his great-great-grandparents' stories of ascending out of enslavement. Additionally, his daughter participated in True Vaers and their civil rights tour, and his wife has participated on PACES. Bill Gould. Next, we have Stacy Connelly. Stacy is a spiritual director and film photographer living in Los Angeles. She and her family have attended All Saints Church since 2016. Stacy is the coordinator for spiritual direction and serves on the leadership team for the Community Care Alliance here at All Saints. She also serves on the Altar Guild, Healing Partners, and is a lay Eucharistic minister. And just a note, some of you may recognize Stacy. She has been serving for the past year plus on the vestry, fulfilling a previously vacated term from another vestry member, but she is eligible and is being nominated to serve a full term of her own. Stacy Connelly. Next, we have Lola Pinon, who was not able to join us today. But let me tell you about this amazing young woman. Lola is a high school student living in Claremont, California. She has been a part of the All Saints youth choirs since 2015. She is currently pursuing an associate's degree in psychology and has a passion for children's rights. She is also a STEM teacher at STEM Center USA, where she teaches simple robotics to kindergarten through third graders. So it's Lola Pinon. Next, we have Andy Reed. I've been looking at it. I'm not sure that Andy is with us today. Andy teaches in the Department of History and Interdisciplinary Studies at California State University, Dominguez Hills. She and her family have been attending All Saints Church since 2010. Andy participates in All Saints Immigration Task Force and foster care youth programs activities. She also volunteers with the Interfaith Refugee and Immigration Services. This is Andy Reed. Next, we have Dr. Claudia Owen Shields, and Dr. Shields is not able to be with us today, but Claudia is a licensed psychologist and clinical professor in a doctoral program where she specializes in multicultural community psychology. She raised her daughter at All Saints Church and has been actively involved here for more than 15 years, including serving as a facilitator and chaperone for the youth choir's civil rights tour. She is active in the Racial Justice Ministry and is a member of the Racial Justice Advisory Board. She has served on search committees for the church, and she has shared her considerable expertise by delivering a variety of workshops on diversity, equity, and inclusion, coping skills during COVID, and depression and suicide prevention. Dr. Claudia Shields. Tim Stratz. Tim has worked in the financial services industry since 1987 and for the past 20 years as an independent investment advisor and planner for families and businesses. He and his wife, Charlotte Meyer, have been active at All Saints since 2019, and Tim has served on the Finance and Investment Committee since 2020, recently being elected as the chair of the Finance Committee. In addition to helping other various groups close to his heart, Tim has also been a board member at St. Francis High School in La Cañada for the past 8 years, working with them on their investment, development, and diversity and inclusion committees. Tim and Charlotte have 4 grown children and 1 granddaughter and are thrilled to have found their community at All Saints Church. Tim Stratz. And finally, but certainly not least, we are pleased to introduce Erica Tamblin. Erica is the chair of the Safe Haven Bridge to Housing program. She is the retired director of administration at Milbank, Tweed, Hadley, and McCloy, LLP, and held similar roles at other major international law firms, where she managed offices throughout North America and Asia for over 40 years. She attended Georgetown University, where she studied Japanese language and Eastern religions. Erica is the chair of the Transformational Journeys Ministry, leading local and international trips to learn about other cultures. A member of the Building and Grounds Committee, Erica is the head of the PACES Deferred Maintenance Team. She is a member of the Rapid Response Team and the Sunday Food Ministry. She basically lives at All Saints Church. Erica and her wife Marilyn have been All Saints parishioners for 23 years, and this is in fact the second term that Erica will serve on the vestry. And she is also passionate about sumo wrestling and is a lifelong New York Yankees fan, which I will, forgive her for. Please welcome Erica Tamblin. As you have heard, All Saints is deeply blessed with this slate of nominees with diverse experiences and perspectives and an amazing amount of talent and commitment to All Saints that they bring to this vestry. So with that, I will entertain a motion to accept the nomination committee's recommendation of these 7 members to the vestry. May I have a second? So moved. Is there any discussion? Are we ready to vote? Great. So all those in favor, please say with a resounding aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Wonderful. Thank you. And please welcome your class of 2026. I'm so excited. I can't wait. So the next piece of business that we have is to elect our delegates to the annual diocesan convention. As members of the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles, All Saints is eligible to elect 6 lay leaders as delegates to the annual diocesan convention that takes place in November of this year. And the following individuals make up the slate that the vestry has approved for nomination: Risa Worthy-Deemer, Thomas Diaz, Julianne Hines, Lola Pinon, Monique Thomas, and Jim White. May I have a motion to accept the vestry's recommendation? May I have a second? Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, and congratulations to the delegates.
And can we say thank you to our incoming senior warden, Julianne Hines? And because you need to go away from the table just a little hungry, we do have a junior warden that the nominating committee is going to propose as nominating for the vestry, but the vestry still needs to approve. And so we're going to have a great junior warden next year, but we'll just wait a little bit more time, and we'll let you know who that is. So want to talk about the budget, and first of all, I want to just say such a big thank you to the person I'm going to be introducing in a second, which is Karen Meyer. Karen has been our treasurer for this year, took over for Jim Albarano. I also really want to thank Jim Albarano. Jim Albarano served as treasurer here for years and through some really difficult transition and did just an amazing job, and then handed over the reins to Karen. And Karen, you have just been phenomenal and in very good humor, which it takes for this job, which I really appreciate. Karen's going to walk us through, and if you look on the back of your agenda, you'll see, and we'll put this up here for those online, you'll see the budget. I want to just speak briefly about how we got here. And part of this is in spring of 2021, we started working on this budget, and we formed a budget working group. And that was, over time, Jim Albarano, Christine Hartman, Julianne Hines, Kimberly Hudson, Karen Meyer, Norwita Milburn, Monique Thomas, Alfredo Ferragrino, Sally Howard, Chase, you jumped on it at the end as soon as you got here, and then Terry Knowles and myself. And we worked with the vestry, and the same way we did last year, we came up with some planning assumptions, because as much as we had hoped that 2022 would be a return to normal, we've realized that's actually not going to happen. We said we really need some assumptions that are going to help us make decisions on this budget. And so here's what we came up with. We said we're not going to go back to the way things were. And that's both as the church and as the world. That there will be disparity and financial insecurity internally among parishioners and also externally. That everyone's capacity, and this is a COVID thing, that means staff and volunteers, is significantly diminished. That we're learning and growing, and that hybrid models and innovation are going to make a huge difference in our community. that healing and learning to reconnect are really some of the biggest priorities that we have right now. We looked at the world around us and our country, and we said that political, social, and theological divisions are going to continue to widen in the year to come. And that also really reaffirming that our focus on dismantling white supremacy and becoming actively anti-racist is long-term work that we need to continue to commit to over and over again. So these became then some assumptions that we made for the budget. The first is to prioritize a 4% cost of living increase for the staff. Please. And you'll see these things reflected in this budget. Full funding for the fourth clergy position, because we knew we needed Chase. Saying we want to defer the filling of the director of the Faith in Action position. That's the position that was formerly held by Juliana Serrano. We want to defer that for a year. That's not just a budget decision. That really is letting Chase and the Peace and Justice Committee and everyone sort of say, well, where are we headed? And let our strategic direction process take shape and say, how can we use those resources the best that we can? We are creating a long postponed facilities office manager position. And again, a shout out to both Veronica Flores and Gloria Lopez, who have sort of filled the gap since before I got here in that position. So yes. We're adding a part-time human resources generalist, Samantha Kramer, who's amazing. I talked to you about that. This increases the compensation package for the successor for the Director of Giving and Stewardship. And Terry, when she came on board, agreed to 3 years and 3 years only. And you have given us so much in these 3 years, Terry, and just incredibly grateful for everything that you have done. And we're in the work right now finding the next person for that job, and we realize that's going to take a while, and so we're actually going to be looking to bring in an interim starting in May and probably into the fall. And that may save a little salary, but it's mostly not about that. It's about how do we make sure we get the right person for this job. We really want to looking at our relationship with wealth theologically and how to engage multiple generations and social locations in that conversation. This budget also reflects 6 administrative assistant positions. As we've restructured, we know we need to be even more robust in our support staff. And also looks at streamlining our finance operations, which will include and continue to include some outsourcing. And so the other thing is we realized that we need to take a breath, and we talked a little about that this morning. And you're going to hear in a little bit about our strategic direction work. I'm going to be taking a sabbatical. I've been here a little more than 5 years, and my contract says I get one, and it's like, I'm taking that. And it's not just enough for me to have a break. Everyone needs a break. And so we're giving every member of the staff 5 additional days of vacation this year because they need it and they deserve it. But more than that this is a year to remember for all of us how to receive God's healing love. And so we're going to try to do that. So really quickly, the timeline, the staff began drafting the budget in late spring 2021. The Finance Committee reviewed it in early fall. In October, the vestry approved a draft budget. That budget had about $160,000 deficit, and it assumed $3.3 million in pledges. Response to the campaign was a little slower than anticipated, so we regathered the budget working group. It looked at how do we reduce expenses, refine pledge expectations, presented a new budget to the vestry on January 18th for discussion, and we waited a couple weeks for approval. That budget had only a $17,000 deficit, which you'll see here, and it assumed $2.85 million in pledges. And the final draft budget was approved by vestry on February 1st. One note I do want to say, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Karen, is there is a line, and you won't be able to necessarily see this here. We had to adjust some of the line items for building use. We used to get between $225,000 and $250,000 from our parking lot. That may never come back because that was mostly from the courthouse, and people are doing a lot more court work online. We worked with Lonnie Shield in Building and Grounds and thought, we can get $100,000, $125,000 maybe on that. And so we put together an effort saying, one place where we really can increase income is in film and TV shoots. And we put together a team to look on that, and again, a shout out to Veronica Flores, who has done amazing work, and also to Debbie Daniels, who is sort of the back office for all these contracts. We had a film shoot here this past week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that netted us $50,000. We set a budget line item for building use for $100,000 in this budget. We're almost there, and it's the end of March, and that's because of the work of Veronica and Debbie, but really also the whole staff and everyone who is flexible when your meeting gets moved. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. So that's good news of an income stream that's continuing to grow. And now, Karen Meyer.
I said to Terry Knowles once in a meeting when somebody took off their mask, it kind of feels like you're streaking. Ooh. But my glasses aren't fogging up. This is lovely. I don't know how much I have left to say after Mike explained things so well. Those of you who were curious and flipped over your agenda may have noticed the budget that is printed on the back, because that's really, really tiny up there. And just as a formatting issue, you'll notice there's like two bottom lines. The first one that's labeled net increase in revenue over expenses current year, that reflects money that actually came in this year, and if it was specified for a specific use and we used it in this year, it's reflected on that top portion. If we used money that was given in a prior year, it's not new income, that's reflected below the line, before in that bottom section. So try and just give you a better idea of that it's completely appropriate, but we have used money that was given in prior year for current year expenses. I am going to reference a quote, or at least an idea of a quote that many of you of a certain age may remember, of our former Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, when he talked about known knowns, known unknowns, unknown unknowns. That was this year's budget process. Unknown unknowns, who knew Ukraine would happen, right? There are these things that just is going to affect our lives, we have no idea. We can't even fathom them in the budget. We did have a lot of known unknowns. We didn't know how much money we should budget for. Terry and her staff have done an amazing job of coming up with a realistic expectation of what we could get in pledges. And that's always an educated guess, but this was a really educated guess. And I certainly appreciate that. Because that drives so much of what we can expect to have available to spend in just ongoing operations. As Mike alluded to, the parking lot income was drastically cut. There are so many things, and even in the giving, who knows, if what we've experienced the last couple of years is going to hold, or if it's a glitch, who knows. We also, frankly, had a large transition in our financial staff and how those processes ran, and they didn't go as well or as smoothly as we had expected, and we're still unwinding that, which meant we didn't have up-to-date financial reporting to use as a basis of a budget, which is kind of what you do. So it also meant that the staff wasn't getting regular, timely financial reporting to be able to manage their own budgets, even though everything was completely different than that prior budget had been set on. So that was an extra challenge, and I'm happy to report that we've got a final report. Oh, I didn't hear myself in my ear anymore. We got a final report just this past week on the full December year to date, which I did lay into these numbers. So at least we know where we were at compared to last year's budget. And we'll be posting some more details. The details need to be presented to the Finance Committee, and then will be distributed and made available. The other known unknowns is what Mike and everybody else has been saying. The world has changed. We aren't going back to the way we are. We shouldn't go back to the way we are. But what will that look like? And that was the large challenge. We didn't want to cut off our nose to spite our face and make decisions on cutting things that that we decided later, wow, we really needed that, because it's very difficult to resurrect something after you've cut it off. And to give us a chance to kind of look around and see where things are going. So that leads us to the known knowns, a lot of which Mike has already laid out: the cost of living adjustment, and the staffing changes. And just to note, our labor costs are 65% of our spending, which is appropriate for an organization that's, a church or any type of nonprofit organization. We wanted to acknowledge that there's certain things we could not cut. Insurance is going to go up a lot. Prices are going to go up a lot. So there's certain things that are out of our control, but we're not sure exactly what that's going to be yet, because that's still unfolding. We did know that last year we received forgiveness of our PPP loan to the tune of $516,000 and change. So that's a $500,000 gift from the government. So using that knowledge, we decided to make appropriate restrictions in certain budgets to reflect that things are tight and we're still figuring it out, but also to take advantage of this gift, to do a really thorough strategic planning process in this year and take the time to examine where are we going to invest our resources to live out our mission and values. And we are going to take that time and that money from the PPP loan that's left over and allow us to not have to make any drastic budget cuts this year. And that's what we've done, and even to the point where, as Mike said, we're having a net loss of $17,000. But we're going forward in faith as taking this gift time to recenter ourselves and reprioritize and decide when we do have to make cuts in the future, if we do for next year, that we're doing that from a place of, we really know this is where we want to invest our time, our money, our resources. That pretty much sums it up. I would be happy to.
Hello again, everyone. So, first off, as we look to the future and what to expect in this year ahead, I just want to take a moment and share with you what an honor it is for me to have been asked to serve as your senior warden for this next year. I have been so fortunate to just learn from the greats who come before me, Marianne Ahart and Juan Mejia and Monique Thomas, and their example and their friendship means the world to me, and I'm sure I'm going to be calling on you a lot, so please don't block my email. And I really, really want to thank our rector, Mike Kinman, who, he leads us with such faithfulness and with such compassion. And I'm going to get teary, so. But I just really appreciate your faith and your belief in me and the support that you've always given me. So just thank you for this opportunity. And just looking forward to the partnership with our amazing staff and with this vestry and this incoming vestry slate I'm so excited about, and with the junior warden that we will be electing in a few weeks. It's just, I think, going to be an amazing time in the life of this church, and I'm really looking forward to that partnership and how we can best support you and how I can be a support to you all. So as we've been wrestling with these assumptions that Mike referred to earlier and going through the budgeting process and going through the strategic direction process, it's been really clear to us that there are a few themes that are rising that are going to be key for this next year. And that's really, the first of these, I sort of term in my head, it's starting well. And it's not like we're starting, this church has been around for a very long time, has an incredibly rich history, and has done amazing work. But there's a lot of things because of the pandemic, because of the way that we are addressing racial injustices that have occurred in our country and that are embedded in our systems for centuries, in this sort of newfound space of really saying, enough, it's time, we say no. We are really starting in a couple of ways, and we want to start well. And first of that, as you've heard, we've been able to bring on a lot of really key roles and staff members that we needed to fill out, from our new associate rector, Mark Chase, to the HR function, to the new administrative support team that we've been slowly bringing on and will continue to bring on. And we really want to make sure that we don't just throw them in a role and say go, but that we're really supporting them, and that we're allowing them that time to come in and really learn and understand All Saints and take their fresh eyes and their fresh perspective and say, where do we need to be going, right? So we need to give them that time. That's part of why we're holding off on rehiring, reforming a position within that peace and justice world to say, what is it that we really need? What does that role really need to be? And that's just going to take time. It's going to take time, and we're going to give that time and that support. The other big piece of that starting new is the strategic direction work led by Tony Jackson that Monique referred to. And as we continue with this next phase, which is the listening sessions, we really need to hear from all of you. What you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're thinking. And we need to listen deeply to God and his direction, their direction for our church. We need to be in discernment about what we're hearing from within the congregation, what we're hearing from within our community, and most importantly, what we're hearing from the Spirit. So that's part of the starting well portion. The next big thing that is so key as I wish I could say coming out of the pandemic, but I would say as we continue to navigate the pandemic and all of the other things that are happening in our world, is really healing and connection, is where we need to be focusing a considerable amount of our energy. These past couple of years have just been paradigm changing for so many of us. And for some of us in our congregation, our entire lives have been filled with trauma because of the way our systems work. And so we really need to be focusing on how are we healing things like the Community Care Alliance, the ongoing work of the Safe Havens program. And we really need to be rethinking what does connection look like, and being creative like we were with the drum circle, being able to, when we couldn't gather inside, we said, okay, we're going to gather out on the lawn, and we're going to do this other thing that really engages our whole bodies and our souls and our spirits. And continuing to think about how do we be creative and how do we fill needs in a fresh new way of coming together. And I think in particular, those themes really play through within the class that we're bringing on of this vestry. That is a theme that runs through their talents and their perspective. So we will be working a lot on that. And then finally, it's racial justice is a must. This vestry has said this is the work of our generation. We must, as Mike said in his amazing address this morning, we must confront and continue this work, and to really understand that our focus on this isn't about individual acts of supremacy or discrimination. We are coming to a greater understanding that the real damage is caused by a culture that is in service of what we call white supremacy. And it hurts all of us. It doesn't matter, what our race is, what our background is. That culture of patriarchy and white supremacy is damaging to us all. And it's not something that started in 2 years, and it's not going to be over in 2 years. This is a generational issue that we really have to go on. And I know there tends to be like this frustration of, okay, we keep talking and we keep having these classes, and when are we going to get to where we solve it and fix it? And I'm here to tell you, as a social worker, that's not how culture change happens. This is work that is ongoing, because really, what it is really, it's about how we are in the world. And so there's never a time where it's like, okay, we start the work here and we end the work here. It is an ongoing conversation. It is an ongoing learning environment for us. This morning I was, before I came to church, looking at the lesson for today, and one of the reflections I was thinking about when it talked about being an ambassador of Christ was, what does that look like? What does it mean to be an ambassador of Christ? And I'm a social worker, so for me, I think, well, my relationship with God is that God loves me so much that God comes to me where I'm at. And God loves me so much that God does not allow me to stay there. So I thought about that as sort of a model for where we're at in the life of our church right now. And when I think about these themes of healing and connecting and challenging us and growing, I think that is the spirit of where God is calling us to, is that is where we need to be, is to show up where we are and to be authentic and honest about where we are, and to examine and allow ourselves to be challenged, allow ourselves to think anew of what this community can be, what this community is meant to be, what this community needs to be. So that's kind of the realm of it, and there's lots of stuff that we're going to continue doing, and these amazing partnerships with Prism and with Keeping It Sacred, and so many other things that are happening in the life of this church that will continue to go on. And I think we need to take this as a year, as my wise friend Reza Worthy-Deemer said, this is a wash, rinse, repeat year. And just I'm really looking forward to the year ahead. I'm very excited and challenged by the year ahead, and I hope you will be as well.
Thank you, everyone. Julianne Hines, your senior warden. So, as usual, I have miscalculated the amount of time things would take, and questions and conversation are important. So what I'm hoping is, I know Keith has got to move into the forum, and some of us have to, or move into the church, and some of us have to get ready for the next service. I'm wondering if some of you, vestry, could stick around here, and if you have questions or conversation, stay in this room, and I apologize to those who are online. But none of this is speak now or forever hold your peace. This is why we have vestry and staff on the lawn every Sunday. We're going to keep these conversations going, and the vestry and staff are readily available. So if you have questions and want to talk more, stick around in this space. Vestry, if you could stick around, and just thank you. As I said before, y'all are the heroes of the faith. What you have done the last 2 years and continue to do has been nothing short of amazing. And thank you for being All Saints Church. Thank you.